The vast emptiness of deep space held no terror for Nathaniel Rivers anymore. After 5 years piloting cargo runs through the outer rim, the silence had become his closest companion. The soft hum of his exosuit's neural interface melded with the ambient sounds of his ship, the Perseverance, creating a symphony of technology that kept him moving despite the paralysis below his waist. The accident that ended his military career should have grounded him permanently. Instead, the advanced exosuit technology had given him a new purpose, even if some viewed him with pity or doubt. The suit's neural connectors might not restore his legs, but they let him feel his ship as an extension of himself. Proximity alert, the ship's AI announced, interrupting his routine cargo run. Distress signal detected, bearing 347 Mark II. Nathaniel's fingers danced across the holographic controls, bringing up the signal analysis. Source: Celestian diplomatic vessel. Reading signs of damage consistent with weapons fire. His heart rate quickened. The Celestians were among the most advanced species in known space, their crystalline technology centuries ahead of human developments. A damaged diplomatic vessel could mean serious political complications. Without hesitation, Nathaniel engaged the Perseverance's engines. Plot intercept course. Alert emergency response that were responding as first on scene. The ship that emerged from the stellar dust clouds looked like a piece of abstract art, all graceful curves and translucent surfaces, now marred by ugly scorch marks. 3 smaller vessels, clearly the attackers, were retreating at high speed. Life signs? Nathaniel asked, already maneuvering for a rescue approach. One confirmed. Located in the central chamber. Environmental systems failing. Nathaniel initiated docking procedures, his exosuit humming as he prepared for potential complications. The neural interface sent precise feedback about every system, every connection. Some said his condition made him less capable. He'd learned it had made him more precise, more attuned to the technology that kept him alive. The airlock cycled, and he guided his hover chair through the crystalline corridors of the damaged ship. Emergency lighting cast prismatic shadows everywhere, making navigation tricky. But the suit's sensors guided him unerringly toward the life sign. He found her in what appeared to be a control center, trapped beneath a fallen crystal arch. The Celestian woman's skin had the characteristic opalescent sheen of her species, but was dulled by pain or stress. Her eyes, with their distinctive spiral pupils, widened at his approach. "Hold still," Nathaniel said, assessing the situation. "I'm here to help." "The attackers." She managed, her universal translator making her words clear but not hiding the strain in her voice. "Gone. But we need to move quickly. Your environmental systems are failing." He positioned himself carefully, the exosuit's enhanced strength controls allowing him to lift the crystal arch despite his seated position. "Can you move?" She slid free, revealing an injury to one of her legs. The crystalline nature of Celestian physiology meant she was literally cracked, though not severely enough to be life-threatening. "I am Solara, third envoy to the human territories," she said, accepting his help to stand. "You have my gratitude, though I admit surprise at." Her eyes took in his hover chair and exosuit. "At a disabled human coming to your rescue?" Nathaniel finished, with a slight smile. "Let's get you to safety first. Then we can discuss preconceptions." The journey back to the Perseverance was tense, with the damaged diplomatic vessel groaning around them. Nathaniel's enhanced awareness through his neural interface allowed him to navigate them through the increasingly unstable structure. When a support beam crashed down, his reactions, augmented by the exosuit, let him pull Solara to safety with remarkable speed. Once aboard his ship, he helped her to the medical bay, where his AI could begin treatment of her crystalline fracture. The whole time, he could feel her studying him with increasing fascination. "You pilot this vessel alone?" she asked finally. "The exosuit and neural interfaces let me handle everything," he explained, starting a deep scan of her injuries. Some might see it as a limitation. I've found it makes me better at some things. More connected to the technology. Fascinating, Solara said, watching him work. Among my people, such injuries would mean an end to independent function. Yet you've adapted in ways we hadn't considered possible. Nathaniel smiled as he administered the specialized treatment her injuries required. Humans are good at that, finding new ways forward, and the obvious path is blocked. Now, want to tell me who would dare attack a Celestian diplomatic vessel? The look that crossed her face confirmed his suspicions. This wasn't a random attack. And somehow, he knew his life was about to become far more complicated than simple cargo runs through deep space. The next 12 hours aboard the Perseverance proved more interesting than the previous 5 years of Nathaniel's cargo runs combined. Solara's presence transformed the utilitarian ship into something almost exotic, her crystalline form catching and refracting the ambient lighting in mesmerizing patterns. "Your neural interface," she said, watching him perform routine maintenance checks from his hover chair. "It's far more sophisticated than anything I've encountered in human space." Nathaniel's hands moved smoothly across the holographic controls, his exosuit responding to his thoughts with precision. Custom design. After the accident, standard prosthetics weren't enough for deep space work. So I helped develop something new. "You designed this?" Solara's spiral pupils dilated with interest. "Collaborated with some brilliant minds. When traditional solutions fail, you either give up or get creative." He gestured to the ship around them. "The entire vessel is integrated with the system. I don't just pilot it, I feel it." Solara moved closer, her crystalline features catching the light. "Among my people, physical imperfection is seen as a sign of reduced capability. Those who suffer injuries are typically removed from public roles." "Sounds lonely," Nathaniel said, turning to face her. "And wasteful. Some of humanity's greatest achievements came from people who had to find different ways to interact with the world." Before Solara could respond, the ship's AI interrupted. "Multiple vessels approaching. Matching configuration to the previous attackers." Nathaniel's hands flew across the controls, his neural interface feeding him data faster than standard human reaction time. "They're back to finish the job. Hold on." The Perseverance wasn't a military vessel, but Nathaniel's modifications made it far more capable than a standard cargo ship. As the first enemy vessel opened fire, he was already moving, the ship responding to his thoughts as much as his commands. "Impossible," Solara breathed, watching him orchestrate a complex evasion pattern while simultaneously coordinating the ship's defensive systems. "Your reaction speed. The neural interface doesn't just compensate for my paralysis," Nathaniel explained, his focus split between their conversation and the ongoing battle. "It enhances what I can do. Traditional pilots have to process information, then react. I feel it directly." The attacking ships were fast, but they hadn't counted on facing someone who had literally become one with their vessel. Nathaniel's maneuvers were unpredictable, impossible to anticipate because they bypassed normal human limitations. "They're not just raiders," Solara said, analyzing their attack pattern. "These are military-grade tactics." "Noticed that," Nathaniel replied, executing a turn that would have been suicidal without his enhanced connection to the ship. "Want to tell me what's really going on?" Solara's crystalline surface dimmed slightly, the equivalent of a human paling. "I was carrying sensitive diplomatic information. Information that could prove certain high-ranking individuals in both our governments have been working to destabilize human-Celestian relations. Hence the welcome party." Nathaniel's mind raced, processing combat tactics while considering the implications. "But they didn't expect you to be rescued by someone who could outmaneuver them." The battle continued, a dance of technology and skill against superior numbers. Nathaniel's unique abilities turned what should have been a quick ambush into a frustrated pursuit. His neural interface let him push the ship beyond its designed limits, feeling exactly how far he could stretch each system. "We can't keep this up forever," he said, after another near miss. "We need to end this." "The nearby asteroid field," Solara suggested. "But the density," Nathaniel smiled, "would make it suicide for normal piloting." "Good thing I'm not normal." The Perseverance dove into the asteroid field, weaving through spaces that seemed impossibly tight. The pursuing ships hesitated, then followed. It was exactly what Nathaniel had counted on. What followed was a masterclass in enhanced human capability. Where traditional pilots would need to see gaps to plot courses, Nathaniel felt them through his neural interface. The ship became a true extension of himself, sliding through spaces with millimeter precision while their pursuers struggled to keep up. One by one, the attacking ships were forced to pull back or risk destruction. Finally, the last pursuer crashed into an asteroid, unable to match Nathaniel's impossible maneuvers. In the sudden quiet that followed, Solara stared at him with new understanding. "I believe," she said slowly, "I need to revise several assumptions about human adaptability." "That's a start," Nathaniel replied, already plotting a course to safer space. "Now, about those corrupt officials. You would involve yourself further?" Solara asked. "This conspiracy reaches to the highest levels of both our governments." "I'm already involved." He turned to meet her gaze. "Besides, sounds like you need someone who's good at finding unconventional solutions to problems." "That happens to be my specialty." The look they shared held volumes of unspoken understanding. Sometimes the greatest strengths came disguised as limitations, and the most powerful connections formed when you learned to see past surface differences to the potential beneath. The Celestian diplomatic outpost on Europa Station glittered like a massive geode, its crystalline architecture contrasting sharply with the utilitarian human construction surrounding it. Nathaniel felt distinctly out of place as he guided his hover chair through its prismatic corridors, following Solara to a secure meeting room. "The High Council will be resistant to your presence," Solara warned, her own crystalline form resonating subtly with the architecture. "They already consider my survival suspicious." "Because a disabled human saved you?" Nathaniel kept his voice light, but the bitterness of experience colored his words. "Because anyone saved me," she corrected. "The attack should have been perfectly executed. My survival suggests inside knowledge, which makes everyone a suspect." The meeting room they entered was a marvel of Celestian engineering, with walls that shifted between transparent and opaque based on security needs. 5 members of the High Council awaited them, their crystalline forms more elaborate and intimidating than Solara's. Third envoy, the central figure spoke, its voice like wind through crystal chimes. "You bring an outsider to this most sensitive discussion?" First speaker, Solara bowed respectfully. "Nathaniel Rivers' unique capabilities were instrumental in preserving both my life and the evidence I carried. His perspective may prove equally valuable here." Nathaniel could feel the council members studying him, their spiral pupils contracting with what he assumed was disapproval. His exosuit's neural interface picked up subtle vibrations in the crystalline architecture, communication happening on frequencies humans normally couldn't detect. "The evidence you claim to possess," another council member spoke. "Where is it?" "Secured," Solara replied. "In a location only accessible through means the conspirators wouldn't expect." Nathaniel smiled slightly, remembering how they'd hidden the data crystals within his exosuit's neural interface components. No one would think to look for Celestian technology integrated with human medical equipment. "We've analyzed the attack pattern," he added, bringing up a holographic display from his chair's systems. "The tactics used suggest training by both human military and Celestian defense forces. Someone's building a private army, combining the best of both species' capabilities." The council members vibrated with obvious distress. "Impossible," the first speaker declared. "No Celestian would share our military secrets with humans." Unless they believed it served a greater purpose, Solara countered. The evidence suggests certain factions believe our species are becoming too interdependent. They seek to engineer a conflict that would force separation. The revelation sparked another round of subsonic communication that made Nathaniel's neural interface tingle. He adjusted his sensors, fascinated by the complexity of Celestian interaction. Your human companion, one council member noted, seems unusually attuned to our discussions. As I said, Solara smiled, unique capabilities. Nathaniel's neural interface technology lets him perceive things most humans can't. Just as his disability led him to develop extraordinary piloting abilities. The first speaker leaned forward. You trust this human? Despite his limitations? I trust him because of how he's overcome those limitations, Solara replied firmly. While our people hide away the injured and imperfect, humans adapt and grow stronger. Nathaniel's experience gives him insights we desperately need. Before the council could respond, Nathaniel's neural interface screamed a warning. The station's security grid just went dark, he announced, already accessing his ship's systems remotely. Multiple unauthorized shuttles approaching. This meeting isn't secret anymore. The council chambers erupted in chaos as alarms began blaring. Nathaniel's fingers flew across his controls, interfacing with the station's systems in ways his unique technology made possible. They're targeting life support, he reported. But they're using Celestian encryption protocols. I can't block them alone. Solara moved to his side, placing her crystalline hand over his interface panel. Together, they created something unprecedented, a hybrid of human neural technology and Celestian crystalline computing. The combination proved more powerful than either system alone. Fascinating, she whispered as they worked in perfect synchronization. Your adaptation to your injury hasn't just compensated for it, it's opened possibilities we never imagined. They managed to restore partial control, but the situation remained dire. Through his neural link to the station's systems, Nathaniel could sense the attackers' movements. They were being hunted by professionals who wanted no survivors. The council chamber's defenses are compromised, he announced. We need to move. Now. The council does not flee, the first speaker declared. The council, Nathaniel countered, needs to survive to expose this conspiracy. I have a safe route to my ship, but we have to trust each other. Completely. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the crystalline corridors. The council members looked at each other, then at Solara, who stood proudly beside Nathaniel's hover chair. Trust, she said softly, begins with recognizing that strength comes in many forms. Even those we don't expect. The first speaker nodded slowly. Lead us, human. Show us what unexpected strength can achieve. Europa Station's crystalline corridors had become a deadly maze. Nathaniel's neural interface processed multiple data streams as he guided the group through maintenance routes and emergency passages. His hover chair's modifications proved unexpectedly useful, its sensors detecting approaching threats before they materialized. 3 hostiles ahead, he whispered, holding up a hand to halt the group. They're using some kind of hybrid tech to mask their signatures. Solara's crystalline form dimmed slightly in concentration. The resonance patterns, they're using modified Celestian phase shift technology. It shouldn't be possible. A lot of impossible things happening today, Nathaniel replied, his fingers dancing across his control panel. Good thing I specialize in impossible. Through his neural interface, he accessed the station's environmental systems. A carefully calibrated pulse through the crystalline architecture created a resonance that briefly disrupted the attacker's cloaking technology. The council's security detail moved swiftly, neutralizing the threat before it could alert others. Most impressive, the first speaker acknowledged. Though I admit discomfort at how easily you manipulate our technology. That's exactly what the conspirators are counting on, Solara interjected. Fear of integration between our species. But look at what we can achieve together. A distant explosion rocked the station. Nathaniel's interface lit up with warnings. They're targeting the structural supports. They'll destabilize the entire station if they have to. The evidence we carry must be truly damning, one council member observed. It's not just about the evidence anymore, Nathaniel said, already plotting their next move. This is about making sure tensions between our species explode. What better way than a devastating attack on a diplomatic outpost? They encountered more resistance as they approached the docking bays. The attackers were well trained, using tactics that combined human military precision with Celestian technology. But they hadn't counted on facing someone who could interface directly with the station's systems in unprecedented ways. Nathaniel's disability, which many would consider a weakness, had forced him to develop capabilities beyond normal human limits. Every time the attackers thought they had the group cornered, he found another way to turn the station's systems to their advantage. The docking bays just ahead, he announced, then frowned at new data from his interface. But they've locked down all ships with Celestian security protocols. Then we are trapped, the first speaker stated. No, Solara said, moving to Nathaniel's side. We still have the Perseverance. A human ship. Which they've undoubtedly prepared for as well, another council member argued. Nathaniel smiled. What they've prepared for is a standard human vessel. The Perseverance is anything but standard. He interfaced directly with his ship's systems, activating protocols that existed nowhere in official registries. The vessel came to life, its hybrid systems, part human, part Celestian, and many parts unique to Nathaniel's needs, responding to his neural commands. I've spent years adapting technology to work with my condition, he explained as the ship's engines powered up. Created systems that nobody else would think to use. Sometimes the best solutions come from having no choice but to think differently. The docking bay doors began to close, responding to the attacker's commands. But Nathaniel was faster, his neural link giving him split-second control over multiple systems simultaneously. The Perseverance moved into position as they reached the airlock, its defensive systems already engaging incoming hostiles. It's not exactly a diplomatic vessel, he warned as they boarded. Accommodations might be tight. We are alive to complain about accommodations, the first speaker responded, showing unexpected humor. Thanks to human ingenuity. As they made their escape, fighting off pursuit vessels with maneuvers that should have been impossible, Solara worked with Nathaniel at the control interface. Their combined abilities, his neural augmentation and her crystalline resonance, created a synergy that made the ship even more responsive. I understand now, she said softly, watching him coordinate multiple ship systems with thoughts alone. Why you never saw your injury as an ending. It wasn't an ending, he replied, executing a defensive pattern that scattered their pursuers. It was an opportunity to become something new. Something better. A massive explosion behind them marked the destruction of their pursuers' lead ship. The remaining vessels fell back, unwilling to continue against an opponent they couldn't predict. The Council sees wisdom in unexpected places today, the first speaker announced. Perhaps it is time our people learn to look beyond traditional limitations, in all their forms. Nathaniel felt Solara's hand on his shoulder, her crystalline form resonating in harmony with his neural interface. Together, they had proven that true strength came not from perfection, but from how one adapted to challenges. As they set course for safety, he realized they had changed more than just their own lives. They had opened the door to a new understanding between their species. Ready to change the galaxy? He asked Solara. Her spiral pupils dilated with something that might have been affection. With you? I'm ready for anything. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Interstellar Coalition headquarters on Mars hummed with tension. Hundreds of delegates from both human and Celestian worlds gathered for what promised to be a historic session. At the center of it all, Nathaniel's hover chair drew curious glances from both species as he positioned himself beside Solara. Nervous? She asked, her crystalline form catching the light from the Martian dome above. About exposing a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of both our governments? He smiled. Just another impossible day. The evidence they'd recovered had proven more devastating than anyone imagined. Not just proof of the attacks, but a years-long campaign to prevent deeper cooperation between humans and Celestians. The conspirators had feared that together, the species might become something beyond their control. Ironic, the first speaker commented from nearby. Their actions have created exactly what they feared, proof that our species are stronger together than apart. The assembly chamber fell silent as Nathaniel began presenting their findings. His neural interface projected crystal-clear evidence across the hall's holographic systems, while Solara provided context that neither species could ignore. Together, they painted a picture of corruption that had nearly sparked an interstellar war. The attempt on Europa Station was not an isolated incident, Nathaniel explained, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. It was the culmination of a campaign designed to keep our species divided. To prevent us from learning from each other's strengths. And what strengths could we possibly learn from humans? A skeptical Celestian delegate interrupted. Particularly from one who cannot even stand before us? The chamber tensed, but Nathaniel smiled. Let me show you. Through his neural interface, he activated a comprehensive display of the hybrid technology he and Solara had developed. The combination of human neural adaptation and Celestian crystalline computing had created possibilities neither species had imagined. My injury forced me to find new ways to interact with technology, he explained. Ways that proved compatible with Celestian systems in unprecedented ways. Sometimes our greatest advances come from having to overcome what others see as limitations. Solara stepped forward, her crystalline form resonating with subtle energy. My people have long prided ourselves on perfection, on hiding away anything we view as flawed. But humans like Nathaniel show us that adaptation, not perfection, is the true path to advancement. The evidence was irrefutable. The conspirators had worked to prevent exactly this kind of cooperation, fearing it would change both societies too fundamentally. As the names of those responsible were revealed, shock waves rippled through the assembly. The question now, the first speaker addressed the chamber, is not whether we should change, but how we must change to move forward together. The debate that followed was intense, but productive. Nathaniel and Solara's journey had proven that the barriers between their species were largely self-imposed. Their success in combining technologies, in finding strength in their differences, opened doors many had thought permanently sealed. As the assembly moved to create new frameworks for cooperation, Nathaniel felt Solara's crystalline hand entwine with his. They're still staring, he noted quietly. Let them, she replied. They're seeing possibilities they never imagined before. Just as I did, that day you saved my life. The final vote was unanimous. The conspiracy had been exposed, its architects would face justice, and new programs would be established to explore the potential of human-Celestian cooperation. Nathaniel's neural interface technology would be the first of many hybrid developments, helping both injured humans and Celestians adapt and thrive. The Council has a proposal for you both, the first speaker announced after the session. We need representatives who understand both the challenges and possibilities of true cooperation between our species. Who better than those who have already proven it possible? Nathaniel looked at Solara, seeing in her spiral pupils the same excitement he felt. Ready for another impossible mission? With you? She smiled, her crystalline form glowing with inner light. Impossible is just the beginning. As they left the chamber together, they represented more than just their individual species. They were living proof that limitation was often just a matter of perspective, that strength could be found in the most unexpected places, and that the greatest barriers weren't physical, but the ones in people's minds. The Perseverance waited in its docking bay, its hybrid systems a testament to what could be achieved when different worlds came together. As they prepared for their next journey, Nathaniel reflected that some boundaries were meant to be broken, some limitations meant to be overcome, and some connections transcended all physical barriers. The future they had helped create wasn't perfect, but then, perfection had never been the goal. It was the ability to adapt, to grow, to find strength in difference that would carry both their species forward. Together.